fascinated the world. But what really happened to Madeleine McCann? With exclusive access to Scotland Yard's investigation, we can now reveal the most detailed understanding of what took place that night in Portugal.
Things that have not been quite as significant or received quite the same degree of attention are now the centre of our focus. The e-fits are clear, and I'd ask the public to look very carefully at them.
We'll explain why the images are so critical and debunk the existing theories.
We're almost certain now that this sighting is not the abductor.
And Madeleine's parents tell us how they've coped in the media glare without their beloved daughter.
So I kind of knew straight away then that Madeleine had been taken. It's not us that's committed this crime. It's the person who's gone into that apartment and taken a little girl away from her family.
This is Crimewatch. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. We're live for the next hour with this month's latest crime news and appeals. We're going to be revealing the latest Madeleine McCann findings in just a moment, and following tonight's major reconstruction, I'm going to be speaking live to Madeleine's parents, Jerry and Kate, for their latest reaction to all these new developments. But first, let's have a look at what else we have for you tonight. Detectives from Bedfordshire need your help after a young accountant was shot in cold blood after his car was crashed into on his way to work.
And I've just kind of kneeled over to kind of rub the bumper and see if there was any damage to it. As I'm getting back up and about to turn around, I heard a loud bang.
And Martin has been out with the newly formed National Crime Agency as they tackle the use of false passports by suspected high-level criminals.
National Crime Agency, open the door!
Everyone needs an identity in today's society, and criminals exploit that.
And of course, Martin also has a fresh batch of wanted faces and CCTV.
Yes, they include Martin David Dawson, who viewers identified after we showed this CCTV of him robbing a bank at gunpoint. You told us who he is, now we need you to tell us where he is. Remember, you can press your red button at any time until midnight tonight to have another look at all of these faces. And I've also got some unbelievable CCTV to show you. Who are the two idiots setting this Liverpudlian shopkeeper on fire?
There must be very few people who don't know about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. She was just 3 years old when she went missing whilst she was on holiday with her family in Portugal. That was way back in May 2007. She, of course, hasn't been seen since. And whoever took her, well, they have yet to be brought to justice. There was widespread criticism of the initial Portuguese investigation and even, at one point, accusations that her own parents were to blame. Well, along with Kate and Jerry Mccann in the studio tonight are the Scotland Yard detectives who are leading this new investigation. We've been working closely with them for several months to reconstruct their latest findings, and tonight we can reveal the major revelations that they've uncovered and the true significance of those crucial e-fits that you may have seen today if you've been watching the news. Now, we ask you to cast your preconceptions aside, to examine this new information and to do what you can to help find Madeleine McCann.
The initial Portuguese police inquiry lasted a year. Private investigators have followed up sightings around the world, and the media storm surrounding the story came up with numerous theories.
A friend of Kate and Jerry Mccann has spoken publicly for the first time.
Released an artist's impression of a man they believe may have abducted their daughter.
But what actually happened to Madeleine McCann remains a mystery. In June this year, after reviewing the evidence, officers from the Metropolitan Police began a fresh investigation. Now, for the first time, the lead detective is ready to reveal what they have uncovered.
I would say it was a revelation moment.
And we speak to Kate and Jerry Mccann about how they've coped over the past 6 years.
When it's a special occasion, when you should be your happiest, and Madeleine's not there, that's when it really hits home.
Speculation will be cast aside and new leads revealed as we ask you to help police finally uncover the truth of what happened to Madeleine McCann.
Jay, what are your first memories of Madeleine as a baby?
She came out screaming.
Yeah.
She was a Mccann, there's no doubt about that. She was very loud, but she came out almost perfectly formed. It was really, you know, she was instantly beautiful.
Because you had been through IVF to conceive her, that it must have had an extra poignancy when she was born. Can you tell me?
Very overwhelming, and it's that sort of, that immediate love, really. And she did feel special. I mean, it did feel like, after all we've been through, wow.
I've looked at photographs of your family around about that time, I think not long after the twins have been born. The thing that constantly strikes me, you have this sort of giant smile in every picture, which is like, here we are. This is it. This is all that matters. Was that how you felt?
Yeah, I mean, it was all I kind of dreamed of, really. And I can remember one morning, my mum and dad were there, and we'd all piled into their bedroom, and the 3 kids were climbing on top of me, and I just remember mum saying, "Look at you with your 3 kids," you know, and it was just great, you know, it was perfect, you know.
The resort of Praia da Luz in Portugal is popular with families from across the UK and the rest of Europe. But 6 years ago, it became known for a very different reason.
It was the place where 3-year-old Madeleine McCann was abducted from her apartment.
Since then, the mystery of what happened to her has continued to make headlines. But amid the speculation, what are the facts?
Kate and Jerry Mccann arrived at the Ocean Club complex with a group of friends. They brought their 3 children, 2-year-old twins Sean and Amelie, and 3-year-old Madeleine.
What did Madeleine make of the swimming pool? Was she right in there?
Yeah, she was. She was desperate to get in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the end of April we went out, and it wasn't that warm, but she was straight in. She said, "Mummy, can we go in swimming?" And
she loved swimming. I really, absolutely loved it. So she really wanted to get in that water.
The McCanns got involved with activities provided by the complex. There were kids' clubs for the children. Kate and Jerry signed up for tennis lessons. There was also time for them to be together as a family.
And then generally it's probably about 6:30. We'd all go back to our respective apartments, and then it'd be sort of bedtime routine, really.
In the evenings, the adults would dine in the resort's tapas restaurant, which was 50 metres from the McCann's apartment. 5 days into the holiday, the group was settled into this routine.
I think we all woke up around 7:30 and went through to have breakfast. And it was at that point that Madeleine said, "Where were you when Sean and I cried last night?" And it was one of those questions that kind of throws you.
We just made a mental note of it, and we said, you know, actually, if we go out tonight, we just need to make sure we're really checking. We wouldn't like to think they might wake up, be crying and looking for us.
The time we had by the pool and the play area that day it was a really fun time that day. It was particularly fun.
She was sitting in there with a little dress and a hat on, and I was paddling my feet.
And it was sunny, and that's where we've got the photograph, the last photograph.
We had a lesson booked for the 2 of us, a tennis lesson. And then I stayed on and Kate went for a run. So at 5 o'clock I went over to meet the kids, and Kate came back from her running.
Madeleine looked really tired. She was really pale and looked quite washed out.
We decided to take them straight back to the apartment, and just before 6 I then headed off back to play tennis, and I left Kate to get them ready.
Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked towards the floor, but the lions saw him coming and they soon...
Again, it was kind of quite a nice memory, really. Madeleine was sitting on my knee and Sean and Emily were alongside.
They're right, he thought, I'm useless.
We read a story, and Madeleine asked if she could put my engagement ring on, but she did quite a bit, so she had that on, and yeah, it was just a really nice moment, really. And then Jerry got back pretty prompt at 7.
They were sitting all on the couch together, and they all had their jammies on, ready, had their milk.
We sat on Madeleine's bed and we had a story. And then Jerry came through and we kind of put the twins into the travel cots that they were sleeping in and said goodnight.
We were a ground floor apartment, and the window had a shutter on the outside that was right down. And the window was closed and we had curtains right across, so it was nice and dark in the room.
And then, as always, just closed the door. Not right over, but just so it was open a little bit so that the light from the living room would get through. And I have to say, it was quiet within seconds. I think they were all just so tired and fell asleep.
The Mccanns left their apartment at 8:30. They were joined at the tapas restaurant by their friends Matt and Rachel Oldfield and Jane Tanner and her partner Russell O'Brien.
I'm going to go and check on my little one.
At about 9 o'clock, Matt left to make sure his children were all right. Shortly after he'd gone, the remaining 3 people arrived.
A few minutes after 9, I said to Kate, that's half an hour, I'm going to go up. And as I walked in, I noticed that their bedroom door was open, slightly wider than I had left it. So I actually went into the room and I stood. I could see the twins clearly in their cot, and Madeleine was lying there, sound asleep.
On his way back, Jerry stopped to have a chat with a fellow guest.
Yeah, it's going really, really well. I'm enjoying it.
At about the same time, Jane Tanner went to check on her children. Her route took her past the Mccann's apartment. By the time the starters arrived, everyone appeared settled for dinner.
And then at 9:30, which was the time that I thought, right, I need to check, I stood up, and at the same time, Matt stood up.
No, you stay.
Matt and Rachel were actually staying in the apartment next to us, 5B. He said, I can pop in. So I said, OK, I'll go next one.
As Matt left the table, Jane's partner Russell also went to check his children.
Matt went, checked, and when he came back, he said, everything all right? And he said, yeah, it's all quiet.
All right.
Yeah, is everything okay?
Everything's fine,
All
quiet.
right. Yeah.
Russell stayed behind as his daughter had become unwell. Jane went to relieve him once she'd finished her meal.
So at 10 o'clock, I got up to do the next check. I'd finished eating then, so I headed back to the apartment, the usual route. And I just stopped and listened in the living area for a bit, and it was all quiet. But it just caught my eye that the children's door was quite far open. And at that point, I thought it must have been when Matt checked and he's left it open. And as I was just drawing it over, it was like it had been caught by a draft, and it just kind of slammed shut. And it was only at that point, really, that I kind of, as I opened it a bit, I kind of looked into the room. And I guess I was looking at Madeleine's bed, and I couldn't make it out. And then I realised, actually, she's not in that bed. And I thought, oh, I wonder if she's woken up, gone through to our bed. She wasn't in our bed. And that was the first time where, I guess, you know, a panic kicked in. And it was literally at that point, the curtains that were closed, just kind of whoosh. And then I could see that the window being pushed right over and the shutters were up. So, sorry. So I kind of knew straight away then that Madeleine had been taken.
Within hours of Madeleine going missing, the world's media had descended on the resort.
Searches of the local area were carried out while reporters camped outside the apartment. A day after she disappeared, Jerry gave a statement to the press.
Words cannot describe the anguish and despair that we are feeling.
Later, Kate made an emotional speech after visiting the local church.
Please continue to pray for Madeleine. She's lovely.
As the Mccanns and their friends tried to piece together that night, Jane Tanner remembered seeing something that was to become the main thread of the investigation. When she'd walked past the Mccanns' apartment at about 9:15, she had seen a man. He was carrying a child. Her description helped create this artist's impression. Was he the man who took Madeleine? A month after her disappearance, the Mccanns made an appeal on Crimewatch.
For the Crimewatch viewers at home, I think this would be a good time now to review all the information.
These are virtually identical to the pyjamas that Madeleine was wearing when she was taken.
By now, Madeleine's abduction was a major news story all over the world. But not all the publicity was welcome.
The day that you yourselves were named as being suspects, tell me about that day.
I think Jerry was scared because he knew that we were in a system that we didn't know, and I think I just lost it. Actually, I was upset, but I was angry, and I just thought, you know, it's just crazy, you know, it's unjust. We're never going to find Madeleine.
In July 2008, more than a year after she disappeared, the Portuguese investigation was closed and all suspects, including Kate and Jerry, were formally cleared. The Mccanns continued to campaign for police to reopen the case of their missing daughter.
Do you always feel conscious that there's a Madeleine-shaped hole there?
When it's a special occasion, when you should be your happiest, and Madeleine's not there, that's when it really hits home. Obviously, Madeleine's birthday, it goes without saying, but it's when you're really getting your...
Yeah, it's when you have the big family occasions, really. That's basically, isn't it, a family occasion?
Yeah.
And you haven't got your complete family.
In 2011, the Mccanns made a direct appeal to Prime Minister David Cameron for help in the search for Madeleine. In an unprecedented move, a team from the Metropolitan Police was given the go-ahead to review the massive evidence that had come from Praia da Luz. Would the UK's top detectives be able to crack a case that had baffled the world?
Please come in now.
DCI Andy Redwood is leading the investigation.
Primarily what we sought to do from the beginning is try and draw everything back to zero, if you like. Try and sort of take everything back to the beginning and then reanalyse and reassess everything, accepting nothing.
The work of detectives in re-examining thousands of documents paid off when they were finally given the green light to launch a full-blown inquiry.
What follows is the result of this painstaking new investigation by Scotland Yard's elite detectives. The truest account yet of what really happened that night.
Tell me now about the crime scene itself.
Yes, I mean, the family with their 3 children were in apartment G5A. This was on the edge of a sort of contained area which was known as the Ocean Club, within which there was a tapas bar and swimming pools and tennis courts. But the actual apartments where they were staying was outside that perimeter area, and it was effectively from front and back accessible to the public. The front door was accessed via a car park, and then the rear entrance was a side set of steps that led up and into a rear balcony area that went into and through patio doors. Madeleine and her siblings, Sean and Amelie, were staying in the front bedroom, which looked out onto the front car park. Madeleine was in a bed, and the 2 children were in travel cots between Madeleine's bed and the bed that was nearest to the window. The careful and critical analysis of the timeline has been absolutely key. Primarily, we're focused on the area between 8:30 and 10. We know that at 8:30, that was the time that Mr. and Mrs. Mccann went down to the tapas area for their dinner, and we know that at around 10 p.m, that was when Mrs. Mccann found that Madeleine was missing.
One of the most pivotal events on the timeline was Jane Tanner's sighting of a man carrying a child.
He was walking in this spot, just meters from where Madeleine had been.
It was a night crash that was operating from the main Ocean Club reception, and 8 families had left 11 children in there, and one particular family we spoke to gave us information that was really interesting and exciting. In fact, I would say it was a revelation moment when, having discussed with them what they were doing on the night, they themselves believed that they could be the Tanner sighting.
The British father had collected his 2-year-old daughter from the crash. He had been walking near the Mccann's apartment. This is the actual photograph taken by Metropolitan Police officers of the man dressed in the kind of clothes he wore on holiday. This image was compared to the artist's impression.
It is uncannily similar, and we know the pyjamas that their child was wearing, that it is, again, uncannily striking the similarity.
So what you're saying is that the timeline that everyone was working on for years in this case was wrong?
We're almost certain now that this sighting is not the abductor. But very importantly, what it says is that from 9:15, we're able to allow the clock to continue to move forward. And in doing so, things that have not been quite as significant or received quite the same degree of attention are now the centre of our focus.
This was an enormous discovery for the team, an innocent explanation for the suspect who'd been at the centre of the case for 6 years. Their attention quickly turned to another sighting, which could now be the key to the entire mystery.
It was here at 10 p.m. that an Irish family witnessed another man carrying a child. They saw him come down the hill from the direction of the Ocean Club, heading that way towards the beach. Could this have been Madeleine and her abductor?
He was a white man with brown hair, and the child that he had in his arms was described as being about 3 to 4 years of age, with blonde hair, possibly wearing pyjamas. A description very close to that of Madeleine Mccann.
2 of the witnesses helped create e-fits of the man they saw. Today, for the first time, we can reveal the true significance of these images.
This could be the man that took Madeleine, but very importantly, there could be an innocent explanation. The e-fits are clear, and I'd ask the public to look very carefully at them. And if they know who this person is, please come forward.
As part of their exhaustive investigation, the detectives are particularly interested in a number of blonde-haired men who were seen near the Mccann's apartment. Do they hold the answer to her disappearance?
One witness saw a fair-haired man near the Mccann's apartment twice. On the first occasion, she saw him standing on the path that runs behind the block. The second time, near the entrance of the tapas restaurant, looking towards apartment G5A. On the day Madeleine disappeared, 2 men were seen on the balcony of a nearby empty apartment, believed to be 5C, 2 doors down from the Mccanns. A man was also seen in the same area 2 hours later. At 6 p.m, a man was seen in the stairwell in the Mccann's apartment block. And an hour after Madeleine was reported missing, 2 men were seen speaking with raised voices. When they saw the witness, they walked away, talking in hushed tones.
How important are these sightings, do you think?
Madeleine McCann's disappearance does, on one reading of the evidence, have the hallmarks of a pre-planned abduction. That would undoubtedly have involved reconnaissance, and so we're really keen to understand who these people were. They may all be separate. So it's really important this evening to say to the public that if you recognise yourself, then please have the courage to come forward, because it's really important for us to eliminate any sightings that are innocent and nothing to do with Madeleine's disappearance.
As well as that line of inquiry and the sighting by the Irish family of a man carrying a child, the police are also looking at a third important strand of their investigation.
We have noticed that there was, between January and the time Madeleine went missing, a 4-fold increase in the number of burglaries that were taking place in the vicinity.
In the 3 weeks prior to her disappearance, 2 incidents took place in the very block where Madeleine slept. In both, windows were used to gain access.
Possibly, there is a scenario where Madeleine could have possibly disturbed somebody trying to commit a burglary.
To date, nobody has been caught for these crimes.
You've said in the past that there can be nobody who knows your story who can look back on that night as much as you yourself have looked back on it and said, what could we have done? What should we have done? How do you deal with those feelings now?
Maybe I'll say it first, because I think I realised really early on that you could guilt, ifs, buts, maybes could just eat away at you and it doesn't change what's happened. It's almost been a mantra for me, is to look forward and always look forward at what can still be done.
I think it took me longer to get to that point, and you know, I did persecute myself over my decision to eat at the tapas restaurant for weeks, months, years, I'd say.
For years, did you?
Yeah, you know, why did we think that was okay? You know, obviously with hindsight. But then, as Jerry said, it doesn't help. It doesn't help us, it doesn't help Madeleine. And ultimately, it's not us that's committed this crime. It's the person who's gone into that apartment and taken a little girl away from her family.
That's what they've done. They've taken a little girl away from her family. Let's speak now live to DCI Andy Redwood, who, as you've seen, is leading this big investigation and has taken the time to join us here tonight. In front of you and your team has been a massive task. You genuinely feel that you are making significant advances here, do you?
Yes, we do. We are making good progress. There is still much to do. But our revision of the timeline and a re-emphasis on events beyond 9:15 means that we are bringing new information this evening to the public.
OK, tell me about that then. Let's focus on 10 p.m, let's focus on this sighting, and you tell me what's important and what people watching need to concentrate on tonight.
Well, at 10 p.m, we can see a man walking down towards the sea, a white man in his 30s with brown hair, and in his arms is a child, 3 to 4 years of age, blonde hair, wearing pyjamas, very close description to that of Madeleine McCann. 2 EFITs that have never been in the public domain of this one individual. Really important for us to understand who he is.
Andy, another aspect that seems to me very important are all these different sightings of might be the same fair-haired man, might be a different fair-haired man. Give us a bit more detail on those.
Well, there is a number of incidents on both the day that Madeleine went missing and in days leading up to her disappearance, where 1 man or 2 were seen lurking around the apartments. Now, there may be a completely innocent explanation for that, but we really need the public to help us to identify who these men are.
OK, you said to Matthew there was this spike, this 4-fold increase in burglaries around about the time that Madeleine was taken. And also there was a rash of, now, we are calling them charity collections. Who knows if that's what they were. You think both of these things also might be something that has an important aspect in terms of the investigation?
Yes, on the afternoon that Madeleine disappeared, at between 3:30 and 5:30, there were 4 charity collector events where 2 men went to residential apartments in streets very close to her apartment. And certainly on one of those events at 4 p.m, there's an EFIT that the public can look at now, a man with black hair,
right,
that we really need to understand more about and identify who this person is.
And just, it was around about a week before there was another significant, again, let's call it a charity collection sighting. Tell me about this.
Yes, and this was actually the week before Madeleine disappeared in the apartment where she was staying. A man, and the EFIT is in front of the public now, again with black hair, went up the rear steps and approached a gentleman on the balcony. And again, there are certain elements of both that event and the event on the 4 p.m. on the day with the EFIT we've shown prior to this that have resonance between each other. Really important for us to identify who these individuals are.
That's for sure. DCI Andy Redwood for now, thanks very much for taking the time for talking to us. So let's then join Madeleine's parents. Let's talk to Kate and Jerry Mccann. You saw there. For us, they were reliving that entire traumatic day, and nice to see you again, and I'm sure it can't have been easy. Jerry, if I can come to you first. You said the first time that you made a public statement that words cannot describe the anguish and despair that we are feeling. I wonder tonight, having come all the way that you have and having fought as hard as you have for this investigation, hearing the new information, what are you feeling tonight?
I think we're feeling hopeful and optimistic. All along we've said that a review needed done, and I think the Metropolitan Police have done a great job in piecing things together, bringing all the information and really identifying new pieces of information that really are taking us further forward.
Kate, I was entirely conscious as I was speaking to you and Jerry when I was interviewing you, that of course I was asking you about the most traumatic and awful day of your life. Of course there is a reason for doing that. People watching tonight might say, well, you know what, Kate, it's 6 years on. What do you think is going to come out of this? You're putting yourself through all this heartache. What on earth can happen next? What would you say to them?
It doesn't matter how much heartache we put ourselves through, so long as, you know, we get the result that we need. You know, as Jerry said, the Met have made huge progress, and that's given us great hope that we can find Madeleine, that we can find out what's happened and bring us some answers.
As well as all the other cases over the last few years of children who've been found after being taken for a long time. You know, these cases can get solved, and I think that's what the public need to think about tonight, the new information, and really rack their brains and come forward, really.
I was very conscious when I spoke to you. Actually, you said something to me that you didn't say during the interview, but you said later on when we were chatting off camera, and you said to me, Kirsty, you know, the younger that a child is abducted, the greater chance statistically there is that that child will be found alive. Now, obviously, you have had to become experts in this, but I very much got that feeling that for both of you, there is hope there still.
I think absolutely. We don't know what's happened to Madeleine. We don't know who's taken her. Probably our best chance of finding her is identifying that person, and that's why the EFITs and sketches and the new information tonight are so important to us, because that's probably the best chance we've got of finding Madeleine.
Can I just ask you briefly, Kate, for anybody watching tonight who thinks, I know something, I don't know, we wish you and we wish the twins all the very best, and thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, there you have it. Now it's your turn. If you recognise the man that we've shown you tonight in these EFITs, there he is again, or if you have any single scrap of information, could be about the sightings of the fair-haired men, it could be about burglaries in the area, I would urge you please to do the right thing and call our studio now. You know the number. It's 0500 600 600. You can also call the incident room if you'd prefer. Let me give you the number for that. That's 0800 096 1011. Let's go to Martin.
We start tonight's Wanted Faces with Martin David Dawson. Now, he was identified by Crimewatch viewers after we showed this CCTV of an armed robbery at the Britannia Bank in Newport in Shropshire in June this year, during which the cashier was threatened with what looked like a handgun. 49-year-old Dawson has links to Derbyshire and Staffordshire as well as the northwest of England. Number 2 is Fidi Utmanzai. Now, he escaped from a secure psychiatric hospital in 2010 where he was being detained after being convicted of manslaughter. The 23-year-old, who is originally from Afghanistan, has links to the Haringey and Twickenham areas of London and to Newcastle and Pakistan. He has a cigarette burn scars on both of his forearms. He's considered to be dangerous to the public, so if you see him, call the police immediately. Next is Thomas Francis Hallisey. Detectives want to speak to him about an aggravated burglary in Leicester in March when the victim was threatened with screwdrivers and a pair of scissors. The 36-year-old, who's from the travelling community, is known to have links to Rochdale, Manchester, Cambridgeshire and Nottinghamshire. He's also thought to be dangerous, so again, just call 999 if you spot him. And lastly, for now, is Roger Lim. But he also uses the first names Darren, Christian and Christopher and the surnames Smith, Nelson and Oates. Detectives want to trace him in connection with a serious sexual assault which happened after the victim had met a man through a dating website. The 42-year-old, who's originally from Derbyshire, has tattoos on both arms, one of which depicts a tiger or a lion and one which is a bird of prey. Now, all of tonight's faces are on the website and you can also see them again by pressing your red button. If you know where they are, call and text the numbers on screen. Texts will be charged at your standard message rate. Well, time now for some crimes caught on camera, starting with that terrifying arson attack on a shopkeeper in Liverpool on a Saturday evening in June.
2 hooded men rush into the store and spray the floor with flammable liquid. As the shopkeeper approaches, the attackers ignite the liquid, engulfing him in flames and leaving him with serious burns. Now, the men responsible may be hiding their faces, but someone knows who they are. Name them tonight. Inside a bank in Birmingham on a Wednesday afternoon in July. A man queues waiting to deposit his business takings. 2 men, one in white and one in black, and both wearing shades, walk in and immediately make a grab for the bag containing the money. The victim desperately tries to hold on, but they soon overpower him before running off. The pair stole tens of thousands of pounds. Now we're banking on you to name them. Who are they? This is the reception area of a hotel in Bath on a Monday afternoon in March. A bald man with a beard wearing a grey top and dark trousers walks in. He has a brief chat with a member of staff. And it looks as though he's on his way out, when he seems to change his mind. He nips back inside, leans over a counter and, somewhat acrobatically, reaches out and helps himself to a handful of cash from a till before hurrying off. And it isn't the first time he's done it. In February, he was caught doing the same thing at Dinosaur World in Torquay. He opens the till and snatches a wad of notes before rushing off. Police are linking this money grabber to a string of other similar offences, but he's pretty distinctive, so let's have his name, please. A florist van pulls up outside a remote farmhouse in West Yorkshire on a Thursday morning in March. A man gets out, walks up to the house and knocks on the door. He gets no answer, so he has a good look around the house. But this guy isn't here to make a delivery. He's far more interested in what he can take away. As soon as he's established the coast is clear, he goes to fetch his mate and the pair enter the house. A few minutes later, one of the men goes back to the van, which had earlier been stolen, to collect some tools. But they don't get a chance to use them, as they're disturbed when the farmer, who's been working nearby, returns home. The pair flee empty-handed, making off in the van. These fake florists showed some blooming cheek. Tell us, who are they?
If you need a second look, all the CCTV you've just seen is on the Crimewatch website. Call and text the numbers on screen if you can help.
Right, still to come tonight then. It happened in broad daylight in the middle of rush hour. So why did someone shoot a young accountant on his way to work, leaving him with terrible injuries?
I've had overall 7 operations now on my leg. The next morning I was told by the doctor I'd actually lost something along the lines of approximately 18 bags of blood.
But before that, let's just see what has already come in on the phones. Matthew.
Well, let's get the latest on tonight's Madeleine McCann revelations. The lead detective, Andy Redwood, is here again. Andy, new witnesses, new leads, a new timeline. What has come in?
Yeah, we've had a really fantastic opening to the programme this evening, Matthew. You know, we've had some really good calls, particularly in relation to the revision of that timeline. The man seen walking down towards the sea at 10 p.m. with a child in his arms. On description, looks like Madeleine McCann. 2 callers have called with the same name of a man who fits one of those EFITs. Another caller identifying, providing a name from one of the EFITs. The man was actually in Portugal. Blonde males, burglary information, charity collectors. We need the public to continue to call in. Really, really good and positive response this evening.
Andy, I'll let you get back to the calls. Thanks very much. Kirsty.
OK, so it seems to me the lines are very busy tonight, not surprisingly. If you're calling you can't get through, please keep on trying. We really do want to hear from you. Now, though, it's time for a roundup of the latest crime news. Busy night, Matthew. What have you got for us tonight on the news?
Well, news on a case we featured last year. 48-year-old Javed Ali died after being stabbed in the neck in his shop in Paisley, near Glasgow, in June 2012. Well, 3 weeks ago, 31-year-old Lee Anderson from Paisley was found guilty of killing Mr. Ali. Anderson's own mother even emailed Crimewatch naming him after our appeal. Incredible. He was charged with murder but convicted of the lesser charge of culpable homicide and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Now, Javed's son, Abbas, gave us his reaction.
We're just glad that he's been convicted. That will allow us a chance to move on. Sometimes you feel that he should suffer the same loss that we have, but I don't think to be angry is the best way to deal with this situation, because ultimately I think it will turn you bitter, and that would affect you for the rest of your life as well.
Well, that was the family's reaction. The detective who led this investigation said the information they received after Crimewatch was invaluable in convicting Anderson.
It was really complex from the start. And whilst we had several lines of inquiry, we investigated them thoroughly, but we never had that piece of crucial information that we'd require to build a solid case. Crimewatch gave us that ability to reach into people's homes, and we followed up a number of lines that came in. Some of that formed part of the investigation and indeed the prosecution case.
Matthew, thanks very much for that update. Now, the morning commute to work is a pretty mundane part of everyday life. Imagine the horror then for 27-year-old Atif Ali, a law-abiding accountant from Luton who was doing just that. He was going to work when, out of the blue, someone tried to kill him. Police have been met with a wall of silence, but are convinced there will be people watching tonight who know who did it and why.
Ambulance emergency. What's the address of the emergency?
Leicester Road, outside the Leicester Arm. The man's been shot in the leg. He's bleeding a lot.
Okay, just bear with me.
So Atif's a very happy-go-lucky person. He's always done a lot of work for charity. He's always put others first before himself. He's very sporty, very active. He loves playing cricket, football. He's very popular with his friends. He was always happy, he's always smiley, never hurt anyone in any way. As a person, you know, he's someone that I would describe as always putting others first before himself. On that morning, I woke up and I was actually running a bit late for work. Just jumped out of the house. I think I must have had a bit of tea or something. I don't think I had breakfast properly, and I was just in a rush, so I got into my car and I started driving off to the bottom of the road. You're on your way to work, you kind of stop to think. As I've come to a T-junction, I've stopped my car, so I felt a bit of a jerk in the car, as if someone had bumped me from behind. But I wasn't sure. I was in two minds whether I'd actually been hit or not. As I've got out of my vehicle, gone to the back end of my vehicle to check my bumper at the back on the far side, and I've just kind of kneeled over to kind of rub the bumper and see if there was any damage to it. As I'm getting back up and about to turn around, I heard a loud bang. And straight away I lost my balance and I fell to the floor. I was in the middle of the road at that stage, and the first thing that came to my mind was I need to get off the middle of the road, because I thought this guy's going to run me over if I don't get myself off the middle of the road. It was actually almost hanging off. There was a very little minute bit of leg that was still attached and keeping my leg from completely splitting into two pieces. And all of a sudden, it's just, everything's just turned on its head, and you're thinking, am I even going to be alive tomorrow? Your whole thought process just completely changes and you're in shock. You don't really know what to think or say. I've had overall 7 operations now on my leg. The next morning I was told by the doctor I'd actually lost something along the lines of approximately 18 bags of blood. When we see Asif in that state, all of us are hurt, and that happiness has been taken away from our family. So that, in a way, that's probably the biggest thing that's impacted our family. That someone's just taken our happiness away.
I have no doubt the intention was to kill Atif. If Atif had not stood up when he did do, there is every likelihood that he would have been shot in the head. We do know that Atif was followed from his home address by that silver Ford Mondeo, and in between that car and his car was a black Audi A6 motor vehicle. We're looking for the occupant of that vehicle to see if they can help us with the description of the person that was in the silver Ford Mondeo. The vehicle driver got back into the silver Ford Mondeo, abandoned the vehicle in Sandgate Road near the junction of Fieldgate Road. There's lots of people about at the time, and I'm appealing for those people that haven't come forward to come forward and let us know what they saw. I'm particularly interested in the way that those two gentlemen made off, and to find out if they did get into another car or which way they went.
I'm very confident that there's people out there in the community who know who's done this, and also why that person has done this. And I'd urge those people to come forward and contact the police and tell them what they know. It's not even for my sake, for the people that are around me, my family, my friends, people of the community. There's so much more to it. So many people have been affected by it. It's affected so many lives.
Well, Detective Inspector Ian Morgan joins me now. Can you give me a sense of the sort of injuries and how serious they were that Atif sustained in this attack?
Atif's lucky to be alive. He's suffered devastating injuries that are really going to stay with him for the rest of his life.
Very brave young man. Let's talk about the cars. You've got CCTV. We saw it in the reconstruction. Let's take a look at it again. What's important here? Pick out the detail. Tell us what's important.
We know that when Atif leaves that morning, he's followed by the black Audi and then followed up by the silver Ford Mondeo, the registration number of which is YM02XYJ. We're trying to find the occupant and driver of that vehicle, along with the occupant and the driver of the black Audi, who we believe may be a vital witness.
We should make it absolutely clear that the previous owner of that Mondeo, who you've traced, has got nothing to do with this at all. So it's that car and the Audi. You've also got a pretty good description of the gunman himself. Take us through that.
We've got a description of a male with a dark complexion, about 6 foot tall, and he's carrying a yellow JD sports bag, we believe, like this one.
OK, and show us the other side of that as well, because it's very distinctive on both sides. OK, there we go. Thanks very much for updating us on that. Atif's family have offered a 15 grand reward to anybody who gives information that results in a successful conviction. I would urge you to please call the studio now. You know the number, 0500 600 600 if you can help, or if you prefer you can speak anonymously to Crime Stoppers. I'll give you their number too. That's 0800 555 111. And of course, if you've been a victim of crime, there's always the victim support line to help. They're on 0845 30 30 900. Let's go to Martin now.
More faces now, starting with Craig Mark Brown. The 38-year-old is wanted for breaching the terms of his licence after being released from prison where he was serving a sentence for manslaughter. Brown, who has links to Kent and to Ireland, is considered to be extremely dangerous and should not be approached. Just call 999 if you see him. Next is Mohammed Ikram, although police think this may well be a fake name. They want to speak to the 43-year-old about the indecent assault of a young girl on a beach in Bournemouth in 2009. Ikram, who struggles to speak English, has links across London, specifically to Neasden. Number 7 is Stephen Michael Waters, also known as Stephen McGlasson. Detectives want to speak to him about a fight in the car park of a pub in Northumbria in July, during which a man was stabbed in the neck and slashed across the face and arms. 38-year-old Waters has links across northeast England, specifically to Hexham, Prudhoe and Gateshead. He has various tattoos, including this one, the word Buster on his left arm, a large tribal design on his right arm, and the name Bella tattooed on the back of his neck. He's also considered to be very dangerous indeed. And finally tonight is Howard Deloma Blackman, also known as Owen Hewitt and Trevor Davis. 41-year-old Blackman was due to stand trial for a variety of drugs offences, including possession of heroin and cocaine and money laundering, but he failed to turn up at court. Blackman frequently wears this distinctive long green coat, which you can see in this photo, which has a dragon motif on the back as well as an unusual beaded crucifix. He has a strong Jamaican accent and links to the Rotherhithe, Brixton and Hounslow areas of London. Call and text on the usual numbers if you recognise any of tonight's faces. They're all online, and you can have another look by pressing the red button on your remote.
Now, this is Samantha Luthwaite, dubbed the White Widow. There were reports that she was linked to last month's deadly terror attack on a Kenyan shopping centre. That's not been proved. But it's believed that she travels using a number of false identities, including this here, South African passport. The attack in Nairobi has highlighted the threat posed by terrorists and other serious criminals who are able to slip across borders using fake IDs like this one. Well, last Monday, the National Crime Agency launched with a major crackdown on fraudulently obtained documents. Martin's been given special access to their very first operation.
Final training for the new National Crime Agency just days before its launch. Within hours of coming into being, the NCA is ready to strike, but this time it's for real. The first priority, tackling the fake identities used by major criminals.
Officers here are preparing to carry out a raid on people they suspect of using fraudulently obtained but genuine documents, otherwise known as FOGs. These would include things like birth certificates and passports. The documents themselves aren't fake, but the identities are.
Everyone needs an identity in today's society, and criminals exploit that. These are serious organised criminals. You don't just go out and get a fraudulently obtained genuine document for no reason. They use them for many different things. Terrorism, also sex offenders use them to travel as well, particularly the UK passports. So it's vital that we take these documents out of circulation.
This early morning raid is one of several being coordinated across England and Scotland over the next few days. Fake documents link into every area of crime, and officers need to be prepared for every eventuality.
Each individual operational team will have to make a risk assessment when they actually arrive at the address. Chances are that they've already made an assessment of how the actual address is made up, where the front door actually is, whether there's access points. They'll gain access to that front door and will be in possession of a search warrant.
In rural Cheshire, the team suspect a man of using a false passport.
Well, I'm here today to arrest you for obtaining property by deception, namely a fraudulently obtained genuine passport.
Well, entry was made to the house very quickly, very easily, no problems there. The suspect has been arrested and is now in custody.
More than 200 miles away in South London, and another team hits the next target.
National Crime Agency, open the door! Officers from the National Crime Agency, I'm arresting you on suspicion of obtaining property by deception. 2 counts, namely passports.
This particular address, an arrest has been made. That person has been taken to a local police station where he'll be booked into custody. It's most important that we focus on these type of criminals, because once you've got a FOG passport, what happens is the likelihood is you can then obtain a driving licence and then other breeder documents as well. So you then find that criminals have numerous identities and they travel on one identity, get to perhaps an international hub, change their identity again and then travel on again. This operation means that we can stop that identity crime and stop their actual criminal activities by taking those documents and them out of circulation.
Well, Keith Bristow is the Director General of the NCA, the man who runs the whole shebang. He's here with us tonight. We saw the work that your officers do there. It used to be called the Serious Organised Crime Agency, and the sceptics, the critics say, you know, this is just a bit of slick rebranding, and actually it's not going to make much difference to the work that's done. How do you reply to that?
No, this is quite different. For the first time, a single agency will lead the UK's fight to cut serious and organised crime. Working with the police and other law enforcement agencies, we will identify, we will assess serious and organised criminals and their groups. We'll ensure they've got the right law enforcement response targeted at them, and we will continually disrupt everything they're doing using every lawful and ethical technique available to us.
What you want to do is track down the big gun fugitives here. You've brought some faces along here tonight. You want to do what about these people?
Well, these people are wanted by the NCA for serious crime, drug trafficking, fraud, money laundering. If the public can help us, please call. We've got officers waiting to take calls. We want to identify these people and bring them to justice.
OK, Keith, thanks very much for updating us and coming along to Crimewatch tonight. I should tell you, you can have another look at those individuals and get more information about them on our website. If you can help, then please do get in touch using the numbers on the screen. That's just about everything for now. But remember, all of tonight's appeals, including, of course, that Madeleine McCann reconstruction, are available on our website. You know the address. It's bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch. And Martin's wanted faces, will they stay on the red button until midnight tonight? Please do take another look if you can. You can also stay up to date with how cases progress via Twitter, of course. The phone lines are going to stay open until midnight tomorrow. We're going to be back again tonight, of course, at 10:35 p.m. after the news with the very latest on what I am hearing has been a very important night for Crimewatch. Viewers in Northern Ireland, you're going to have to wait until 11:05. For now, thanks for calling. If you can't get through, keep trying. Your calls make a difference. Bye-bye.